Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, TG13. Today, we are doing a little bit of fantasy football slash PFF. I downloaded, subscribed to PFF. As you guys know, I do love PFF. I'm just going to keep saying their name. So I'm really excited using some of their stuff and went ahead and put together this little slideshow. So we're going to look at the AFC North and the NFC North team by team. Again, this is just fantasy, so we're just going to look at the offense. Some news coming out the last couple days. First off, I feel really bad for UCF? Is it UCF Tiger? I think that's who it is. He reported some news a couple days ago that Shad Khan is selling the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then he just got absolutely blasted on Twitter. I saw Mia O'Brien. She tweeted some stuff at him. Yeah, not good. I feel bad for him. I don't think he was doing it for clout. I don't think Shad Khan's selling the team, but I think he was just told some bad information. He kind of jumped on it, and yeah, he's made a couple of videos apologizing for the way he said it and everything like that. But again, I feel bad for him. I don't follow him on Twitter or YouTube or anything. It just popped up. I think Dilla had tweeted him and said something like, "I feel bad for you" or something, and that's how I saw it. So again, I feel bad for you, UCF Tiger. I think that's who it is. Next up, some rumors going on in the NFL that Kadarius Toney is being traded from the Giants. Again, I like Kadarius Toney. I know he's had some red flags in the past, and we talked a little bit about it in the last video. He got suspended for a fight and fined, and I know some GMs didn't want to pick him high because of the red flags. So I think he's got a lot of talent. He just needs to get some stuff under control. Again, I really like him. I think he's a really good player, a lot of talent, and he's a gadget player. Like, you can use him anywhere. We saw last year he could throw the football. So put him in at quarterback. Better than Daniel Jones. But anyways, so we're going to look at the AFC North right now. Yeah, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bengals. Just real quick, we're going to start top left. The Ravens had kind of a down year last year, not what they were hoping for. I've got a really good friend that's a huge Ravens fan, and it's every year he's thinking, at least since they drafted Lamar, that they're going to the Super Bowl, and it's kind of had a down year last year. It hurts when your top two running backs get hurt and they're out for the year, and you don't really have much at wide receiver. You got a great tight end. You traded your left tackle going into the draft last year. So yeah, it's tough, but let's see if we can see a bounce back. We'll look into the numbers. The Steelers, you had Big Ben into his road last year. Obviously, he's retired. Drafted Naji Harris in the first round last year in the NFL draft. Got some good wide receivers. Offensive line, get old. You're going to have to restock that offensive line. Defense, for football purposes, is really good. You have Pat Freiermuth, the Muth, at tight end. Really like him. I think he's a really good player. We're going to talk about him here in a little bit. Then Browns, making the move of the century, getting Desean Watson after everything that's been going on with him. Now you have Baker, and I've talked about him, going to Seattle, Carolina, Atlanta. I still think Seattle's the best spot with the wide receiving core that they have. And so, yeah, they had some big moves this year. And let's not forget about Amari Cooper getting traded there. I really wanted him for the Jaguars. I would have given up a lot more than what the Browns did just to get somebody in there like Amari Cooper. Instead, we signed Christian Kirk to not as bad of a contract, but he's not as good as a player as Amari Cooper. So, sorry, I just got done mowing. A little hot still. Then next up, you have the Bengals, played in the Super Bowl last year. Really good team. They got a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of offensive line help in the offseason with free agency. You have great wide receivers. Tight end, we'll look at that a little bit. Running back, you have Joe Mixon. And then, of course, you have Joe Burrow, who just played lights out last year. So let's get into it. First up, you got the Bengals. Joe Burrow, his PFF grade last year was 91.8. That was first among quarterbacks. Fantasy football rank, he was number 8. Again, this is a fantasy football show, so I'm going to talk about that as well. I didn't know what to think going into last year's draft. He just got hurt the year before. We knew he had really good wide receivers, but I didn't think he would have as good of a year as he did last year. Again, 91.8 as a quarterback, number 1. You had some good quarterbacks last year. You had Aaron Rodgers. You had Tom Brady. You have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Some really good quarterbacks. So to have the first overall in PFF and 8th quarterback in fantasy football, that's good. And again, so these fantasy football rankings, I was trying to do them off of ESPN and PFF, and I ended up having to go off of ESPN and go to just a standard scoring, is either that or 1 PPR. And so my league, which I'm going to talk about a lot, is half PPR. So those were the only 2 options. I just went with standard because that's what we've always been. This is our first year as a half PPR. Next up, you have Joe Mixon, 79.2, 14th overall running back. He had a couple games last year, where Pirine stepped up and they took Joe out. I know he was injured, so that hurt him, not helped him. And then fantasy football ranked number 3. I was high on him last year. I traded for him before the draft, and I think it was 2 years ago when I traded for him during the season. But I really like Joe Mixon. And again, they got a lot of help on offensive line, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I think that's just going to help him out even more. You might not finish number 3 again this year because you do have Derrick Henry coming back. You hopefully have a healthy Christian McCaffrey and a healthy Saquon Barkley. Not saying they're going to finish top 3, but you do have these guys coming back. They do have a lot of skill, and anything could bounce their way, and they could have some really high weeks, which obviously that will add up. You also have Naji Harris coming back. You got Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor. You have all these good running backs coming back. So my dog is absolutely just going bonkers. Hold on, give me 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. So I do live in Jacksonville Beach. I live right next to the beach, so we get a lot of foot traffic walking up and down our sidewalk. And there was a family, husband, wife, and 2 little kids. They were walking by, and of course my dog wanted to say hi. I do have a Mastiff Great Pyrenees, and he loves to bark, and when he barks, it's really loud. So again, I do apologize about that. So let's get back to what we were talking about. We're talking about Joe Mixon, 14th overall per PFF, and the number 3 running back last year. Then you have Hayden Hurst in at tight end. He's a local Jacksonville guy. He went to Atlanta. They got him in. No, he got drafted by the Ravens with a first-round pick, and then he got traded to. Did he get traded or did he sign a free agent? He might have signed as a free agent with Atlanta, and now he's with the Bengals. He had a 55.3 grade last year, which was 59th among tight ends. That's not good at all. I had really high hopes for him. Obviously, Mark Andrews took his spot in Baltimore, but tight end last year for fantasy purposes, he was number 39. And this is where we're going to talk about the offensive line. So you have Jonah Williams, 74.5 last year, the 32nd best tackle. That definitely helps. Jackson Carman, 54.2, 67th. Then you have Ted Karras, 72.9, 15th. And Alex Kappa, 71.6, 18th. And Lael Collins. What's it, Leal? 80.2, 15th. I keep seeing, we talked about it the other day when we did the mock draft with CBS. A lot of people are projecting them picking up a Tyler Linderbaum and either putting him at left guard or shoving Karras over to left guard. Just fantasy football purposes, as a Joe Mixon owner, I am absolutely loving that. They're going to have a really good offensive line, way better than what they had last year. You have Joe Burrow opening it up. Hayden Hurst, not much of a blocker. So not that really does much. But wide receivers, you have Jamar Chase. PFF rank last year was 85.3, 7th overall. And fantasy football purposes, he was number 3 wide receiver. T. Higgins, PFF rank 83.4, 9th overall. Wide receiver, fantasy football rank is 17th at wide receiver. Then you have Tyler Boyd, 70.8, 48th, and 33, playing out of the slot. So fantasy football purposes, you start with that offensive line because that opens so much up for Joe Burrow. If he has any time, 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds to get one of these guys open, that's going to help tremendously. Jamar Chase is his go-to guy. I was looking at it earlier. He went to him in the red zone, on third down, under pressure. Jamar Chase was his guy. And so as a Jamar Chase owner, I really love that. Not saying that he'll finish wide receiver 1, Jamar Chase that is, but he could definitely finish top 5 because of that offensive line opening up or giving Joe Burrow more time. Then you have T. Higgins, and he could even move up as well from 17. He could sneak in at 12 and be a wide receiver 1. And then Tyler Boyd, playing out of the slot. He's a really good player. I really like him. I think 33 is about the spot you're going to get him. Wide receiver 33, that is. I think that's about where he's at. It's hard to have, 3 wide receiver 1 or 2s. So Tyler Boyd, he might be able to sneak into that wide receiver 2, but he's somebody I'm going to keep an eye on, again, especially with this offensive line. And then you have Joe Mixon back there in the backfield. Again, I know they used P-Ryan a lot last year, but Joe Mixon's your bell cow. He's got about 1 year left. And as a Joe Mixon owner, again, I'm really looking forward to this offensive line opening up some holes. And then you have the wide receivers on the outside, so they can't just stack the box. The defense just can't stack the box all day long like they do with other teams, like Derrick Henry, who's just a man among boys out there, bigger than some of the defensive linemen. So I really like this team fantasy-wise. It kind of reminds me of, I want to say Tampa Bay with their wide receivers, a couple years ago. They just have everything. They have running backs, they have wide receivers. They finally have the offensive line. Yeah, the tight end's not the best, but, late in draft or maybe even just pick them up for a week or two at the beginning of the season next year and just see what Hayden Hurst can do. See if he's getting some of those red zone targets. They're going to be covering a lot of these guys. Somebody has to be open. They can't double everybody. So Hayden Hurst might be a sleeper just to keep an eye on. Again, like I said, late in draft or maybe just pick up after week 1, week 2, and to see what you can do with them. Let me say this again. I wouldn't pick him up after week 1 or week 2. I'd pick him up after the draft. And if he's not doing anything in week 1 or week 2, then you can cut him. Sorry, I misspoke on that. Then Joe Burrow, I think, barring injury, the guy could finish. He's quarterback 8 last year. I could see him quarterback 5. He doesn't run a lot, and that really hurts fantasy football wise. But if you need somebody that you can get mid draft, hopefully he's not being. I haven't checked best ball or anything, but hopefully he's not flying up draft charts or anything. But he's somebody if you can get late in the rounds, maybe falls, pick him up. He's better than a wide receiver 5 or 6 or 7 or something like that, or a backup running back. If you really need a quarterback, go ahead and pick up Joe Burrow. Okay. I just thought about what I said. In our draft, we don't value quarterbacks as high as other people. Like Patrick Mahomes is not going in the first round. Lamar Jackson might just for his rushing. But because there's only 8 of us, quarterback 8, he's going to fall. He'll probably be around 10. If he goes higher than that, then that's fine. If he's at 10, if we're in round 10 and he's there, I'm taking him. So he won't be there because Cody will pick him up in like this probably second or third round. So not to worry about that. All right. So next up, you have the Cleveland Browns. Really expect a lot out of them last year. You had Jarvis Landry, you had OBJ, you had Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, you had Baker Mayfield, you had what you thought was a really good offensive line. That defense. I know people were saying, it's Cleveland, they're not going to win, but I thought they would, hold their own against a lot of these teams, and they didn't. So what they did is they went out and they traded for Desean Watson, and they gave the house for him. So you have Desean Watson, which I don't have any grades on him. I'm not going to go back 2 years because he hasn't played. He didn't play last year. So I'm not going to go back and put him at wide or quarterback 4 or anything like that. But you have Nick Chubb. He was 81.7 last year, 18th. He's running back 7 in fantasy. Kareem Hunt, 74.4. The PFF just didn't go that low whenever I was doing the ranking. And then final fantasy football ranking, he was 44. I had him last year. He's one of those guys that if Nick Chubb goes down, he is a running back 1. And Dan talked about it last year in the text message in our text group. Kareem Hunt's just right there where if Chubb goes down, you're trading as much as you can to get Kareem Hunt because he's going to be the only running back in the backfield. Unfortunately, it was the opposite last year, and Kareem Hunt went down. And so I was stuck holding the bag on that. But I really like Kareem Hunt and just talking football. And he's just, like I said, one of those players that if anything happens, he's right there. And then we're going to talk a little bit later, after all this, about like the wide receivers, and they're going to need somebody that can catch the football. You have David Njoku, 55.3 last year. He's 59th rated tight end, and fantasy football, he was 21st. Now, he didn't get a lot of playing time last year, and I know that he had complained about, Baker's not throwing me the ball, and I think Baker said something like, you should get open. So I know there was a little fighting going on there. But I really like David Njoku. He's very athletic, pretty raw. I like him. And then you look at the offensive line. Jedrick Willis Jr., PFF ranked 74.5. He was 52nd. Joel Bitonio, 93.6. He was first. He was the first overall left guard last year. Nick Harris, 70. He didn't get enough playing time for them to have a ranking for him. So obviously I didn't have anything to go off of. Wyatt Teller, 84.9, fifth. And then Jack Conklin, PFF 78.8. He's 20th rated tackle. So I really like that offensive line. So if you have Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, look at those guards. You just need Nick Harris to step up. And, I kept, before the Desean Watson trade, I kept having Tyler Linderbaum. I kept having him go to the Browns because they need a center. Obviously, that didn't happen. They have Desean Watson. The rest is history. But I really like that offensive line. We'll see with Nick Harris what we can get out of him. Wide receivers, you have Amari Cooper, 73 last year. He's 40th rated wide receiver. And in fantasy football, he was 26th. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 65.7, 73rd. Fantasy football ranking of 60. And then Jakeem Grant, 63.7. Fantasy football, he was 124. So again, people are going to – Desean Watson is going to throw the ball, obviously. And Amari Cooper is definitely going to be his number one target. But who's after that? Donovan Peoples-Jones, you have Kareem Hunt, who I really liked, going into this year, seeing what Desean can do as somebody that can catch that football out of the backfield. And then David Njoku, I'm definitely looking at him this year. Definitely see what they do in preseason. He's just a big tight end that can catch over the middle. So he might be the number 2 or number 3 option, which would really help fantasy football-wise. I mean, you can get Devin Njoku really, really cheap in a draft. You look at last year, he finished at the tight end 21. People are down on him. You're looking at Travis Kelce. You're looking at Mark Andrews. You're looking at Kyle Pitts. You're looking at TJ Hawkinson. You're looking at Robert Tonyan. There's 5 tight ends right there. Dalton Schultz. Again, we're in an 8-person league. So Devin Njoku go really late in the draft. And again, tight ends they don't get a lot in our league. We are a half PPR this year, so that does help Devin Njoku, whoever drafts him. But I'm really looking at Kareem Hunt and Devin Njoku here. And then wide receivers, outside of Amari and Donovan Peoples-Jones, I didn't see much. So we'll see what Desean can do. Can he sustain, obviously you're going to have a running back, but can he sustain 2 wide receivers and a tight end? Or is it going to be one wide receiver and a tight end? Or is it just going to be a wide receiver, running back, and running back? Somebody that he can just dump off to, or will they put Kareem, a couple snaps a game at slot, or will they be doing trick plays, like what you see with Devo, anything like that? So this team will be interesting. It'll be a team to watch during preseason. Again, I really like their offensive line outside of left tackle, but I think he's going to get better there. So, in center. He just didn't get a lot of playing time last year. So they like him. Let's see what he can do. Next up, you have Baltimore. And we talked about them at the start of this. You have Lamar Jackson, 70.2. He's 24th rated quarterback per PFF. Again, he didn't have a very good year last year. I know he was hurt. Tyler Huntley came in. But fantasy football-wise, he was ranked 16th. Again, this is where people reach. Like in our league, we always have somebody that reaches up for, whether it be Desean Watson or Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts or anybody like that. Anybody that runs, you do have a couple people that'll risk it and take a quarterback pretty early. Most of the time, somebody like Joe Burrow will fall down the draft because they already have their quarterback. Why do I need another one? So that's when those players can start to drop. But you have Lamar Jackson there. You have J.K. Dobbins, who I actually have on my team. He didn't play last year. He's not going to set the world on fire, but he's a running back in a running back system. The only thing that hurts is that offensive line and the lack of weapons on the outside. So we'll see what the Ravens can do this year. I'm not high on the Ravens. I know they need some help on the offensive side of the ball and also the defensive side of the ball. You need help there at edge and defensive tackle and corner. And so, we'll see what JK can do. Just, you have him and Gus Edwards. Then you have Mark Andrews, 91.5, first overall rated tight end last year, and the number 1 tight end in fantasy football. So I was an idiot. I had Mark Andrews and I had TJ Hawkinson, and I was tired of Lamar, and so I kept TJ Hawkinson and I cut Mark Andrews going to the draft last year, and obviously I did not pick the right one. And then look at the offensive line. You have Ronnie Stanley, who got hurt. He had a 48.9. That's not like him. You have Tyree Phillips, 53.1, 78th rated guard. Patrick McCarry, 66.1, 52nd. And again, this is all centers. So, if you only played 10 snaps, they're still putting that in their rankings. Kevin Zeitler, 75.6. He was 10th rated guard. And Morgan Moses, 71. He's 40th. So, not real big on the offensive line. Again, as a J.K. Dobbins owner, that's a little scary. I was looking at that earlier, and I'm like, it's not what I was expecting. That doesn't help whatsoever. You have Rashad Bateman at wide receiver, 64.9 last year. And I put it twice. Nice. Fantasy football rank was 79th. Marquise Brown, 68.9, 58th. Dude, I told you. We get all this foot traffic. But he was number 25 rated fantasy football wide receiver. Give me one moment. All right, sorry about that again. It's funny because he doesn't leave his bed. He stands in his bed because he knows not to get out of his bed when I'm in here. Let me just fix this a little bit. All right, sorry about that. But he doesn't get out of his bed. He just stands in his bed and he just starts howling. So that's very funny. But yeah, you have Marquise Brown, 68.9, 58th, according to PFF last year, wide receiver. He's the 25th best wide receiver in fantasy football. I wasn't high on Marquise Brown going into the year. I'm still not high on Marquise Brown. It's just, I'm not high on that offense for wide receivers. Now, I did pick up Rashad Bateman really, really late last year in the draft because I thought, he might show something. He showed a little bit. He's just a rookie. So, will I do it again this year? Maybe. But who knows? And you have Devon Duvernay, 55.7, 103rd rated wide receiver last year. In fantasy football, he was 99th. So, they don't have a lot of wide receiver. Offensive line is not very good. You do have Mark Andrews, but teams can start doubling him. You don't have anything really on the outside. You have J.K. Dobbins as running back, along with Gus Edwards, who neither one of them played last year. So the Ravens are kind of a question mark. What are they going to do? I know they like to run the ball, but you do have Lamar Jackson's contract coming up. So are you going to try to turn it into more of a passing team, or are you going to keep doing the run-heavy offense? That is something that, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep an eye on during preseason, see if they keep doing that or not. All right, the end of an era. Big Ben Roethlisberger retired. I mean, Big Ben, he goes back there. When I first started watching football, it was just a little bit, but it was when Big Ben came out and Eli and Phillip Rivers and, those guys, David Garrard, when they all came out. I know not in the same class, but, those are the quarterbacks that I think of. So now that Big Ben's gone, well, I guess Tom Brady as well and Drew Brees, but those are the guys I first think of, and now they're all gone. And, minus Tom Brady, he's going to play till he's 65. But it's an end of an era. I can't remember a quarterback before Roethlisberger. So it's definitely different. So yeah, Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback, not good. 68.4 last year. He didn't really have a lot of playing time. It was just, junk ball. But he finished the 68th best quarterback. Again, he didn't do anything last year. So let's hope that maybe he learned something under Big Ben. You have Naji Harris, 69.6 last year, PFF grade, 30th best running back. Fantasy football-wise, though, he was rated 4th. Pat Freiermuth, 72.6, 9th rated tight end last year per PFF, tight end 13. That's really good for definitely a rookie. I wanted him last year in the draft. I think he went top of the second, didn't he? Maybe it was mid-second. I don't remember where he went, or I know where he went, but I can't remember what round or which pick he went with in the second round. But I really like Pat. I know he played good with Big Ben, but we'll see if Trubisky likes his tight ends as much as Big Ben does. We'll see where he goes in the draft, in the best ball drafts leading up to fantasy football season. Because I know he had a lot of hype towards the end of last year, and everyone loved him, in our league and in other leagues and in DraftKings and everything like that. So we'll see where he goes. Will Mitchell Trubisky pull him all the way down where he doesn't get drafted, or it's towards the the very last 2-3 picks in the draft, or is he gonna be at the mid rounds? Again, it's just Mitchell Trubisky. Do you trust him or not? Then you look at that offensive line. You have Dan Moore Jr., 57.5, 72nd rated left tackle. Kevin Dotson, 64.5, 50th. Mason Cole, 69.7, 13th. James Daniels, 71.0, 19th. a core 4, 62.2, 61st rated right tackle. So this is something I was saying going into last year. Their offensive line's old. They're going to start, trying to replenish that offensive line. I keep seeing Kenny Pickett going here. The Steelers could draft, move up and draft Malik Willis. They could draft Kenny Pickett. I think an offensive lineman, if you can. You're not going to be very good this year. You do have the Bengals coming off a Super Bowl showing. Then you do have the Ravens. They do have their problems. And then you have the Browns with Deshaun. So you don't have anything at quarterback, and you don't have much on the offensive line. So do they stick to the old Steelers, pound it with Naji and work on that offensive line? I kind of think they do, but, it is a new and improved NFL where everybody's trying to get spacing and try to get the best quarterback and wide receivers. And, they really don't care that much about drafting these offensive linemen. They can just pick them up in free agency down the road. So who knows? Then you have wide receiver Deontay Johnson, 73.2, 39th rated per PFF wide receiver. Fantasy football-wise, he was 12th. Chase Claypool, 65th and 36th. And then Anthony Miller, 61.9. And then he didn't play enough last year to have a rating. And then 167 rated wide receiver in fantasy football. So I don't think Mitchell Trubisky, one, he can't support 3 wide receivers. He can't support 2 wide receivers and a tight end, plus a running back. A lot of Najee's stuff last year were dump offs. So if he's going to get the dump offs, either Pat, Deontay, or Chase are going to lose their touches. Mitchell's, I know Big Ben was horrible last year, but Mitchell's not much better. So this is a team I'm probably going to stay away from. One, Najee's going to get kept. I do like Deontay. I do like Chase. I do like Pat. But if I were to get anybody, I'm not reaching for Deontay. Chase is a big, big name. From a couple of years ago, people are going to reach for him. And then Pat, like I said, towards the end of last year, everyone was going crazy about him. This is probably a team that I must stay away from just because their quarterback just scares me. Now, if they do trade for Baker, which I doubt happens, but if they do trade for Baker, that changes everything. And we'll see right before the draft because, again, I do think Baker is going to get moved before the draft. If they do trade for him, then I'm high on this team. I'm high on the wide receivers. I'm high on the tight end. But until then, I must stay away from this team. All right, so next up we have the NFC North. You have Green Bay, you have Minnesota, you have the Lions, you have the Bears. Some of the big stories, Green Bay, is Aaron Rodgers leaving? Is he retiring? Is he coming back? What's going on? Oh, he's coming back. Okay, awesome. So we have him and Devontae and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. We're getting ready to rock this division. And then Devontae is traded pretty much immediately. And so you're bringing in Sammy Watkins. It's different. I don't know what to think about that. You lose one of the best wide receivers in the game over to Vegas, and you're gonna try to move Lazard or Sammy Watkins, to replace him. I don't think that's gonna happen. So we'll see what goes on there. Then in Minnesota, you still have Kirk Cousins, who a lot of people thought would get traded. He ended up signing an extension. So he's back in town. You have Dalvin Cook. You have Justin Jefferson. You have an Adam Thielen who's getting up there in age. So we'll see what's going on there. Then you have Detroit with Jared Goff. Are they drafting a quarterback at number 2? I don't think so. But a lot of people are saying Malik Willis to Detroit. And then what wide receivers do you have? You have T.J. Hawkinson. You have DeAndre Swift. What could they do there? Then you have Chicago Bears, Justin Fields. Is he the answer? I think their first pick is in the second round this year. Do they work on the offensive line? I've seen a lot of mocks where it's just the Bears are getting wide receiver. I even talked about it in my draft the other day. The Bears need wide receivers. I had their first pick. going and getting a wide receiver. So I'm not sure if I'm even in this shot or not. Let's move that over a little bit. So yeah, let's take a little look. Looky looks. You have Aaron Rodgers, 89.3. Ho hum, top 5. Fifth rated quarterback, fantasy and PFF. PFF was right about that one. Aaron Jones, 82.0, 6th and 13th. Then you have, a mauler in A.J. Dillon, 86.9, second rated fantasy running back per PFF last year. I mean, the dude's just a mauler. And then fantasy football rank was 21st. I didn't think you would go very high last year. You have Aaron Jones. I thought, A.J. Dillon's just going to be somebody that just, randomly comes in. But no, they used A.J. Dillon a lot last year. Then you have Robert Tonyan, 54.6, 61st, and 50th rated tight end. Then you start looking at his offensive line. And I know the other day we had talked about, wide receivers going there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I really think they need to use, one of the first-round picks on offensive linemen. You have David Bakhtiari, 75.2. I know he got hurt last year. Joe Runyon, 64.6, 48th. Josh Myers, 33rd. Royce Newman, 62nd. And Elgton? I think it's Elgton. Elgton Jenkins, 82.1, 11th. He actually played left tackle last year, and he played really good. So have him on the right side. Their tackles are good. Can they pick up a Zion Johnson or Linderbaum or I can't think. I keep wanting to say Dylan Parham, but that's not who I'm thinking of. The other guard, and I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Zion Johnson. I can't think. I don't know. But, could they use one of those other picks on a center or a guard? David Bakhtiari is 30. I know tackles are playing a little bit, longer now. They're playing to 36, 37. But, do you start thinking about that as well? You already have, love back there for Aaron Rodgers. So I know how this team thinks. They like to go ahead and draft these guys early. Then you have Alan Lazard, 64.7. He is 90th per PFF, 44th rated fantasy football-wise wide receiver. Randall Cobb, up there in age, 70.1, 52nd, 68th wide receiver. And then Sammy Watkins, 66.3, 69th, nice, and 100th rated wide receiver in fantasy football. So we know that they like to use their running backs. Aaron Rodgers is going to touch the ball, and it's pretty much up to him what he wants to do with it. Are they doing a running play? Are they throwing the ball? Is he doing a check down? I was looking at the stats earlier. He likes his slants. They lose Devontae Adams. They lost St. Brown. Is that who was there? Yeah. St. Brown and Devontae Adams. That's 200 passing targets that they lost. So somebody's got to pick that up. Is Lazard the guy? I'm not sure. I don't think Randall Cobb's the guy, and I don't think Sammy Watkins the guy. Amari Rodgers is who I think. He's going to come in. He's going to play that slot. Aaron Rodgers likes to throw to a slot wide receiver. He likes the slants. And I was looking at his breakdown earlier, and that was either the first or second most completions that he had was to the slant. He likes to hitch route. So, Lazard, he might just be one of those guys that just runs up and down the field. I don't think Sammy Watkins is going to do much. Same thing with Randall Cobb. He's just getting up there in age. Yeah, he was 68th rated wide receiver last year, but I just don't see it happening. Then you have Big Bob Tonyan. Is he going to step up? Is he going to – I had him projected in the top 10 tight ends last year. I think I had him at like 7 or 8. He ended up getting hurt, but, is he going to step up? This is going to be a crazy year to look at this team and see, you have 200 targets that are going to open up. So who's going to get those? My thinking is, unless they draft a wide receiver, whether it be Chris Olave or trying to think of who else is back there, Jahan Dotson, those are some slot wide receivers, but I think it's going to be Amari Rodgers. And then you look at the running backs. Aaron Jones, I know he signed that contract was last year. Then you brought in A.J. Dillon. Those running backs are fine. Yeah, they don't have a great offensive line. But again, if they go Zion Johnson and Chris Olave with their 2 first-round picks, that's a bunch of work on that offensive line and the wide receivers, which is what they're missing. So I know I had done a mock draft, or I didn't do a mock draft. We had looked at CBS's mock draft, and they had 2 wide receivers. I don't see that happening. I think they're going to grab an offensive lineman in the first round, just try to get somebody in there to help out. Next up, you have the Vikings. Can't think of anything off the top of my head that happened in the offseason with the Vikings. Pretty ho-hum. Kirk Cousins was really mainly the only thing that people talked about. But he finished as 6th best quarterback per PFF last year, 11th in fantasy. He's just a guy that he's just so average that you could get him late in your draft and he could be a starting quarterback and it's fine. No, he's not going to put up the huge numbers any given week, but he's just going to be somebody that gets 18, 20 points a game, and that helps. Like I said, you can get him late in drafts. You don't have to reach for him. Dalvin Cook, running back, he had a down year last year. He was injured. 42nd rated per PFF running back. It's not good. Those injuries. I had Dalvin Cook and I traded him. It's been a long time ago, like his rookie year, and he just kept getting injured. I was just tired of it. And those injuries are just, they suck. I'm a huge Dalvin Cook fan, but, like I said, those injuries suck. You have Irv Smith Jr. at tight end. He didn't play last year, so hard to get anything from him. Christian Darrisaw, 71.9, 36. Ezra Cleveland, 68.6, 27th. Garrett Bradbury, 60.2, 29th. Chris Reed, 67.2, 39th. Brian O'Neill, 73.7, 34th. Offensive line's pretty average. I don't think they're going to draft an offensive lineman. What are they at, 12? I think they're probably going to go defense, whether it be Derek Stingley or, one of the ends. So I don't see him picking up any offensive linemen in the first round. So I think that offensive line will stay the same. Justin Jefferson had a huge, huge second year. 4th per PFF and 4th per fantasy football. Adam Thielen, he's getting older. 74.6, 35th, and then 27th rated wide receiver. He's just somebody that's just going to get you, 10 points a week. He's not flashy. At what point does age catch up to him and start slowing him down? And you have KJ Osborne coming in, 76 rated per PFF last year, and the 35th wide receiver. Is this year that Thielen slows down and KJ Osborne steps up. This team is just, they really just ride on Dalvin. So if Dalvin has a good year, then that's good. If not, Justin Jefferson's going to get his, but who's going to get theirs outside of that? Again, could it be KJ Osborne's year? He's going to be somebody that I look at later in the draft, just one of those names that people don't really know. And they see Thielen, they see Jefferson. Thielen's been there forever, and Jefferson's just been on fire his first 2 years. So is KJ going to be somebody that people are like, no, I'm not picking up a wide receiver 3, not knowing that he could actually be the wide receiver 2 on that team. So that's somebody I'm going to take a look at. I'm going to actually break him down and try to see what he has done in the past. I know he's still pretty young, so not a lot of seasons I can go off of. But what's his route tree look like compared to what Cousins likes? And then again, it just really depends on Adam Thielen. Can he stay healthy, and is Father Time catching up or not? Again, like I said, they're not going to pick anything up on that offensive line. They're not going to pick up a wide receiver, running back. They're fine there. So this stuff's going to be towards the defense. You might see a day 2 or day 3 guy on the offensive line, but that's about it. So Again, my big eye is right here on KJ Osborne. He's going to be the one I'm going to take a look at. He's going to get kept in my league. He's going to be a high draft pick in fantasy football. Adam Thielen, he's going to be somebody. I know people are going to be scared, just like me, just like right now I'm talking about, is the injuries. What's going on? Can he stay healthy? Is Father Time catching up? And then this is the name I'm going to look at, KJ Osborne. So next up, you had the Bears. Bad year last year. They had Allen Robinson. He's no longer there. Justin Fields, your starting quarterback. You have David Montgomery at running back. That offensive line is so bad. So bad. Wide receivers aren't much. They need all the help they can get. He's rated the 29th best quarterback last year per PFF, so he's down there at the very end. He's down there with Andy Dalton and Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, Mitchell Trubisky, just down there towards the bottom of the league. I had high hopes for him. I still have high hopes for him. He just doesn't have much on that offensive line to help him. And he doesn't have any wide receivers. I mean, that's tough. I feel bad for the kid. I hope he doesn't lose, faith in his abilities. I do think he's a good player. I think he's a good playmaker. He just needs somebody. And the Bears just need to pull their heads out of their rear ends and actually do something. You have David Montgomery there, 69.8, 20th rated running back, and 20th running back in in fantasy football last year, which is amazing because you could stack the box and you'd be fine. Justin Fields didn't have anybody to throw it to, and that offensive line was horrible. So good on David Montgomery. I was down on him last year because of those exact reasons. I ended up being correct about it. I didn't want to draft him too high, and I didn't want to trade for him. I didn't want to give a whole lot for him, and I feel good about that. And I feel good about that going into this season. He's probably going to be available just because of everything going on in Chicago. Cole Kmet at tight end, 23rd rated per fantasy, and then you look at that offensive line: Tevin Jenkins, Cody Whitehair, Sam Mustipher, Lucas Patrick, and Larry Broom. There's not a whole lot going on there. Maybe that right side, but yeah, you need help there. You need help on the offensive line. Darnell Mooney, 33rd per PFF, 22nd wide receiver. He had some big games last year, and I remember, on Reddit, everyone just going crazy about Mooney. He's the pick. He's the guy, and they were right, and they went crazy for him. But is that something that he can do now that he's the number one wide receiver on that team? Byron Pringle, he burned me way too many times. I'm done with him. 75th rated wide receiver last year and 53rd per fantasy. I'm done with Byron. I talked a lot last year about he could step up as the number two in Kansas City, number two wide receiver, and he just couldn't do it. Equanimus St. Brown, 56.2, not good. 156 rated wide receiver. So that shows you the huge drop off with that team. This is not a good team. This is a team, and I hope they don't do it. But if they win 7 or 8 games next year, they're just stuck. They're getting these mid-round, first-round picks, and they have their quarterback. That's fine, but you need to work on that offensive line. You need wide receivers. Your running back's getting up there in age. You're gonna have to draft another running back at some point. I know, what is he, 25, 26, but give it the Bears 2 or 3 more years, he's going to hit that 28-year-old, decline, and then you're drafting another running back. So you need to hurry up and work on that offensive line, get some wide receivers, whether that be with your second-round pick. Maybe I don't know. I would say try to get something for maybe next year's second-round pick, just trying to get try to get a guard or a tackle or a wide receiver in this draft, but this is another team I'm going to stay away from. I know Mooney's probably going to be kept. If he's not, I might grab him, but I'm not going to reach for him. I'm not touching Pringle, and I'm not touching St. Brown. So, tight end, maybe Cole Kmet. maybe try to get him late in the draft, or maybe try to pick him up on free agency. David Montgomery, he might not be kept, but he'll be one of the first running backs taken in our draft, and I'm sure in most drafts after the big names go off, just because he is the bell cow. He is going to get a lot of the work. There's just not a lot on the offensive line to help him out much. Next up, you have Detroit Lions. This is a team I keep seeing Malik Willis going at number 2, and I don't think Dan Campbell's going to do that. And no, I don't think he's going to take Kenny Pickett at 32. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback this year. You have Jared Goff, 60.7, 31st rated quarterback last year. He's not a good quarterback, but his contract's too big for them to move from right now. 24th rated fantasy football quarterback. You have DeAndre Swift, 59th per PFF, and 23rd rated running back. TJ Hawkinson, and this is where I totally messed up, 17th rated fantasy football. Sorry, I thought somebody walked in. 17th rated tight end in fantasy football. I could have had the number 1, and instead I had the 17th. So, yeah, good job me. You have Taylor Decker. I really like this offensive line. You have Taylor Decker, 27th, Jonah Jackson, 24th. Frank Ragnow was hurt, but he is now, I believe, the highest rated or highest paid center in the league. He's a good center. Vaitai at 29th and Sewell at 23rd. That's a really good rookie year, 23rd. You have DJ Chark coming over from Jacksonville. Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 23rd last year in fantasy football, and Josh Reynolds at 87. I do like this offense. I don't like Jared Goff, but I do like DeAndre Swift. I do like TJ Hawkinson. This is a team that I stayed away from last year outside of TJ Hawkinson because I just figured he would get all the targets, and obviously that didn't happen. But you have DeAndre Swift back there behind this offensive line. Again, I really like this offensive line. They do need another wide receiver. I do like DJ Chark. He's a good number 2 receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown is who I really, really like, and that's who I'm going to try to get in my drafts is Amon-Ra. 15th rated wide receiver in per PFF. That's really good. Obviously, 15th. I think he was a rookie last year or second year. I think he was a rookie. Then you have Josh Reynolds down there at 87. And so, yeah, I look at this team, and I know DeAndre Swift's going to get kept, and that's fine. There's talks, they might try to get a running back in the 3rd or 4th round. They have a ton of picks. They have 2, 32, and I think 34 that they can work on that defense and maybe pick up a wide receiver there at 32 or 34, and that'll change some things around a little bit. Again, Jared Goff's not good. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. If they do, it'll be really late, and it's just going to be a backup. But this team, they're going to build this the right way, and I do believe that. They've already got that offensive line. They already have their running back and tight end. You just got to hit on one of these wide receivers. You're gonna work on that defense this year, but you just got to hit on one of those wide receivers. Maybe DJ does step up. I don't see it. He just, to me, he's a good player, but I think he's a good number 2. He's not one of these top echelon type players. It's just not who he is. Amon-Ra, again, I really do like him. He's going to be somebody that, I'm going to reach for him. I'm going to try to get him. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for him. They're going to be down a lot. They're going to be throwing the football a lot. Maybe DJ might be able to pull some better corners over to him and open up Amon-Ra a little bit. Maybe another year under Dan Campbell will help out Jared Goff. Maybe TJ Hawkinson will step up this year. It really helps having that center back on the offensive line where, he can get some gaps in there. So, yeah, that's the Lions. Next up, we're not going to talk about them today, but we're going to talk about the AFC and the NFC North. AFC North and the NFC North in my next video. So that'll be interesting. You know, looking at the Bills, you have Josh Allen, you have Stephon Diggs. The Jets have 4 top 40 picks in this year's draft. Could they get a wide receiver? They have Michael Carter at running back. Again, I really like Mims on their team. You have Elijah Moore. I mean, that's going to be a fun team to watch. They're all young, and then you have the Patriots. You know, the ho hum Patriots. You have Mac Jones, another local guy down here in Jacksonville. Do they draft a wide receiver in the first round? I know that they've had problems at wide receiver, and I don't think they will. But you know, they have Ramondre Stevenson, who's a really fun player to watch. And then you have Miami, who's just, you know, all over the board. They have Jalen Waddle. They have Tua. They have, you know, Tyreek Hill now. You know, what's that do to Jalen Waddle? What's that do to what is the tight end's name? Oh, I love their tight end. I can't think of it. But do they work on the offensive line? Do they get a running back? They have Myles Gaskin. You know, do they try to help him out at all? Again, the offensive line would help. New quarterback would help, but offensive line would help. Maybe a couple defensive players, but man, it's gonna irk me that I can't remember his name. It starts with a G. I keep wanting to say Grinky. Miami Dolphins. Gesicki. Yep, Gesicki. You know, are they going to put him in at wide receiver as well? You know, so it'll be fun. And so we'll get to that next time, the AFC East and the NFC East. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. You know, it took a lot of time to put it together. You know, going into, you know, PFF and trying to look this stuff up. And I'm really enjoying my subscription. I'm not trying to sell anybody their stuff, but I'm really enjoying it as a nerd that I am, to be able to break everything down like that. So I hope everybody has a good weekend. We're opening up the beaches this weekend, so I'll be in the parade tomorrow for that. So I'm really excited. Went ahead and shaved for that. And then my wife has her grandparents coming to town. So it'll be a busy week, but I'm looking forward to my next video. All right, everybody, have a good day.